Hey guys, today we're going to look at our phishing campaign and look at our misses and what we could do to prevent ourselves from missing things with phishing in the future. So whenever I'm checking emails for phishing, I look for what I would call red flags. And the red flags I would look for is from, like who the email is from, to who the email was being sent to. Is it multiple people? Any hyperlinks that are in the email, the date and the time that the email was sent, the subject of the email, any attachments like PDFs, images, and then the content, what is said in the email itself. So we're going to break down our phishing email and then we'll look at some examples and we'll go into detail on what to look for in those. So for this one, let's look at the from. So even without opening it, we can see a difference between this Jill Young and this one. A common thing when sending emails as a hacker would be to misspell names, very slightly to make it look like at a glance it's from a different person. So in this case, Jill Young is spelled with 3 L's instead of I. So at a glance, not something you would notice, but something that warrants paying more attention. So if you ever want to get into a view where you can see more things, you can always click on the sender and you can see the contact. For instance, the email address itself, also looking a little suspect here. We got J Young, but instead of an O, we got a 0. And at ITI College.edu. See, this part's right, this part, a little suspect. And you may be wondering, well, how can this actually be from ITI College.edu? Did they actually make an ITI College address? The answer is no. One thing that hackers can do is they can spoof email addresses pretty easily by injecting code. So when in doubt, there's a few things to look for. 1, look for misspellings. 2, look for injections where they substitute letters for numbers. You can also, in looking through this, you can see recent emails. I know most people get several emails from Miss Jill a week, and this is the only one from this one. That would raise a red flag to me. So when in doubt, you can always look and see recent conversations. And if you don't have any with this person, but you normally do, that's a red flag. If it's misspelled, that's a red flag. If the email address itself is suspect, that's a red flag. Alright, so for our next one, we'll look at the 2. Where is the email going? For us, in this case, it was a pretty sophisticated program we used. So it looks like it just went to me. But in the phishing email we had a few months ago, where it went to everybody in the company, that was definitely suspect. So if you see plus 200 people in your to section, that's also suspect. If you see it to a lot of people you don't know, that could be suspect. Not always, but you got to think of it in the context of what you're getting. So next topic I want to kind of look at. Luckily we have this banner. It's a warning banner. So if an email did not actually come from an ITI college address, you'll get this. So if you ever see this, I would think heavily before clicking on anything. Especially if it's from someone you supposedly know. Because if we look at Ms. Jill's actual email, you won't see that banner. And on top of that, you'll see her signature right here. However, you go to this one, banner, suspect, no signature. So just things to look for. Now, hyperlinks. And we'll go into a lot more detail in this in a second. But with hyperlinks, always hover over them. Never just click them. See, if you look in this bottom left corner over here, when I hover over it, you'll see where it actually goes. Again, I'm not actually clicking. So instead of it being drive.google.com, we actually have www.e-serviceparts.info, which is clearly not Google. So you would not want to click it. As you know, it leads to our landing page where you see the hacker taking over and stuff like that. So we'll go into more detail on how you can know if things are legit or not from being able to identify them in that bottom corner. But if you ever have any questions on a suspicious link and you're not sure, reach out to the network department. We'll take care of it for you. We'll be able to tell you one way or another. It's always better to ask than to just blindly click. And it's always better to take your time, even if you feel like you're in a high pressure situation. Because in a lot of times with these phishing emails, it'll be something urgent that requires your immediate attention, and that's how they get you. They play on your emotions, they make you feel like you're interested, you have to act. So always just take time to be like, is this really from who I think it's from? Is this really something I should click? And when you're in doubt, just ask. Now for our next part, date, when the email was sent. For this one, this is totally fine. 7 in the morning sounds like a reasonable time for Miss Jo to send an email. It's a reasonable time to get an email. But a date that would be suspicious, like say you had it sent at like 1 a.m., allegedly from someone you know that is not going to be in the office at 1 a.m. is not going to be sending you an email. You want to pay attention to when you're getting these emails, because that could be a red flag that someone's not in your time zone sending you something when it supposedly should be. Next is attachments. We don't have any attachments in this one, but we're going to go over some examples that do shortly. But anything that's like a PDF or an image file, there are going to be cases where, yes, you're expecting this person to send you something, and you can use your best judgment on that. But if it's from like a suspicious person or from someone that normally wouldn't send you that, that's when you got to question these things. And whenever you're in doubt, just always ask the network department. I just want to encourage you to always think critically, and you'll see examples of that in a second, of when you would expect an attachment and when you wouldn't. Now next, we have contents, what the email itself is saying. So for this one, obviously you got the warning banner, but let's just ignore that for now. So we have the hello all, found some old photos of Mr. Martin from the 70s. And to be fair, this is something Miss Jo would say. This was pretty sneaky. However, next part, definitely worth a look, but keep it on the low. Emoji face. Click here for goods. Not exactly how Miss Jo would talk, but if you're in a hurry, not paying attention, clicky clicky, want to see those pics, that's how they get you, and it's actually a clever ploy that, as you may have seen in the training videos beforehand, that has been employed by hackers before, making people think that you have something of theirs that you would want to see, or something of yourself, like Mr. Barton, like, oh, why does she have these pictures of me? I want to see. Click. It's just a way of getting you to click. But Miss Jo doesn't normally misspell words. She doesn't really use emojis, and she uses better grammar than click here for goods, So just be mindful of how things are presented. Misspellings are very common in phishing emails, and they play off your emotions. They try to get them heightened for either excitement, like, hey, you could win something, hey, you could see something valuable, or fear, like, hey, you owe us this much money on this invoice, click here to see how much, or refute the charges. So just be mindful of that. Next, we are going to move on to a little quiz, and I'll let y'all take this quiz as well. I'll show you how to do that. So we got this phishing quiz that Google puts on. I've already kind of made up a name and an email. It's very easy to do, and I'll show you how to set it up at the end of this video. And all you have to do is make a fake name and email. It just helps to make this more realistic. And then click Get Started. And it presents you with these situations. So let's start with this Google Doc email. Be sure to check out link URLs by hovering or using long presses to explore the email addresses. Don't worry, none of the links will work. We don't want to send you anywhere funny. And so what you're going to do in these quizzes is you're going to tell if this is phishing or legitimate. And we're going to go over how you can tell. And I'm letting you know ahead of time. These quizzes are pretty hard. But after going through them a few times, I feel like you'll have a better understanding of what to look for. So, we got an email from Luke Johnson to me, and you can click the arrow and it explains more details. See, to Joe at example.com, the date, and the subject. So let's look at the whole thing first, and then we're going to go through what we see here. So he shared a link to the following document. It's an attachment, or it looks like an attachment. You hover over it and it goes to drive-google.com luke.johnson. One thing I know off the bat, drive-google.com is not a valid Google domain. It's not a valid Google address. Anything with Google is usually going to be google.com. If there is something in front of it, it might have like a dot in front of it. It's not going to be drive-google.com. Plus, it doesn't look like a Google Drive at all. It looks like a Microsoft document, so that's a little misleading. But there are other signs here. So if we were to look here, Luke Johnson. So just knowing from how we are at the school, you don't usually would get professional emails from a Gmail. They'd be using your work address, like at iticollege.edu, if that's where you were expecting it from a colleague, you know? So Luke Johnson spelled jangly 8000 at Gmail, that's a red flag to me. But even more so of a red flag, we have the date. October 12th, 2020, but it's at 1:59 a.m. So why is my colleague sending me this report at this time of night? I instantly think it is suspect. So with this going to drive-google.com, this being a not professional email address combined with the weird time, I'm going to say phishing. And we are correct. It is a phishing email. And the cool thing about this quiz is it guides you through each thing we just talked about on why it was a phishing email. So be cautious of hyperlinks and attachments you open an email. They may direct you to fraudulent websites where you're asked to put in sensitive information. So show me. So mousing over this link shows you an insecure imitation domain, drive-google.com. And next. So now we got this new one. We've received a fax. We know you're excited, but take your time. So we have a fax message from no reply at efax.com. Already noticed this is misspelled because you got efax right here. How it's supposed to be spelled? Efax. So already I'm not buying it. 2, if we look at this, the date, the time, 2 a.m. Why are we getting faxes at 2 a.m. in the morning? Ain't nobody got time for that. So you have received one-page fax at this time. Click here to view the fax. If you hover over it, this is where we're going to get into domains. So just follow me a little bit. This is where it gets a little complicated. So we have the website, and it's efax.hosting.com.mailru382.co/. So where it gets complicated. Whenever you're trying to figure out where an email address is really trying to take you, what you want to look for is that first single slash after all the efax.hosting.com.mailru382.co/. What's immediately to the left of that slash is where it's actually going. And I'll give you a few examples of this, because it's not the most easy thing to learn. It's pretty tricky, and believe it or not, we had the interns take this, and a few of them did not do so hot on this. So, a lot of people would think .com, that's where it is. Not so true. The ending part of an email web address, a domain name, can be anything these days. .co is common, .biz, .domain, .computer. It can be full on words, and it's valid. And whatever is right by that slash is where it's actually going. So in this case, it is mailru382.co, because what you want to look for is that single slash, the dot something, and then the next thing in front of it before the next dot. So we have .co, so we know that's part of it. And then what we're looking for is that next dot to the left. So mailru382. So yeah, definitely sus. Because they try to get you with the efax.hosting.com, and if there's a slash, that would be right, but not so much. So with what we've seen, weird time, early in the morning, this is misspelled, and this. And so you don't have to catch every red flag, mind you. And we're going to go into a lot more detail in these domains shortly, but just know / is where the domain starts to the left. So you're looking for that / and immediately to the left, that's where you're going. Not the first part, but that part. And so we think it's phishing, and we are correct. And see, it actually points it out right here. So, as spotted, as you saw, the sender's email domain has been spelled as efax, and the link actually points to mailru382.co. So, if I hover over it, you can see that part. So, where that / is, immediately to the left, and you're looking for that second dot, the mailru382. Alright, and then show me, efax is misspelled, and the link actually is that, which you can see at the end of the domain name, not at all what you'd expect. And we'll have more practice on that. Alright, so the next one. Time for a trip down memory lane. Remember TK from high school? And it's TK. And so this one, extra tricky, but there's still telltale signs. One, you're getting it from apparently a friend from school. So it's not unheard of that they'd be sending it from a Gmail. So that's fine. But sending it at 2 in the morning, kind of sus. And I just found a photo of you. Common phishing tactic, as y'all have noticed, because a lot of y'all clicked on this. So I'm already not buying it. Hey, do you remember this photo? And you hover over it. And here we are again with another very sussy domain thing. So we have drive.google.com, which would have been fine had it had a / right after the com. But it doesn't. It keeps going. And that's how you know it's not accurate. Because then you got download-photo.sites.net. And so sites.net is where it actually goes, because that's where we have that /. And the more we do it, the more it'll make sense. So domain, totally not going to the right place. It is another trick. So remember, never look at that first part of the address. You want to look until you find that / and immediately to the left is where it's going. So, really weird time, really sus domain, very sus subject. Not buying it, I'm going to say phishing. And we are correct. Looks like you spotted the lookalike URL. The real domain is sites.net, which is disguised to look like a Google Drive. Remember to be especially cautious if you aren't sure you know the sender. So, like, if you didn't know TK, then absolutely not. But if you actually knew a TK, you have to think a little harder. So, you just have to remember the red flags. The from, the to, the date, subject, hyperlinks, content. So, and then we go through it, and it just points out the sites, which, not Google Drive. Now, this one's trickier. So follow me on this one. Oh, looks like you're out of storage. I wonder what it costs to upgrade. So this is from Dropbox, and it's like no reply at dropboxmail.com. So if I look at this actually kind of looks legitimate. That looks like it could be from Dropbox. And if you ever have questions on that, you could do a Google search. You could Google like Dropbox email addresses, and it'll actually pull up likely email addresses. And then the time, this is a little sus. But at the same time, this looks good. So we gotta look at more information. You'll see your Dropbox has stopped syncing. And it says, hi, your Dropbox is full and is no longer syncing files. New files added to your Dropbox folder won't be accessible on your other devices and won't be backed up online. Upgrading your Dropbox today and getting 1 terabyte of space for powerful sharing features. If you hover over this, it says upgrade your Dropbox. Now, checking the URL, we're looking for that /. So we got www.dropbox.com/. So dropbox.com is the domain, and that is accurate. That is an accurate one. And then what else we can do? We can hover over these. and see if they're malicious. So we got dropbox.com/help. So that one's good. Happy Dropbox and Dropbox team. If you need the biggest plan we got, check out Dropbox for Business. And same deal, dropbox.com/. So these URLs go to the proper places just by hovering over them. It's a good sign. The time is off a little bit, but also keeping in mind Dropbox, this is probably automated because it's no reply. So those probably send out at random times. And so this is where it gets tricky. You have to kind of use your judgment. And also think, do I have a Dropbox account? Because if you don't, then yeah, don't click it. But if you're hovering over it, looks good. Seems to check out. That's a good domain. I'm going to say legitimate. And we are correct. See, that one was very tricky. See, the sender's dropboxbio.com, which is unusual but legitimate. And the URL is a secure link to dropbox.com. What it means by secure link is if you look at the first part of that address when we hover over it, it's HTTPS, which stands for HTTP protocol, secure. It's digitally signed, and that's not always the case. That doesn't always mean something's safe, but a lot of times it does. So we did good. And if you hit show me, this is legitimate. Next, and this is legitimate. All right, now we have another tricky one. You've received a new kind of report from the school, but usually their emails come from this address. This is important. So we got this email address that's coming from instead. So Sharon Mosley at Westmount Day School. Already a red flag to me. If I'm normally getting email addresses from westmountschool.org, and now I'm getting the one from seemingly the same person, but it says westmountdayschool.org, I don't buy it. See, and then the time. Also, the time actually has to do with what time I'm recording this. So we can pretend for this sake that this is a normal time. So even if this was a normal time, I'm weirded out by the from. That's not the email address I normally get it from. If it's someone you don't recognize or it's slightly different, don't assume that they sent it. What I would do straight up is contact them. I would call them, I would text them, I would email them on the address I know and be like, hey, did you happen to send me this file? And if they did, then I'll be like, oh yeah, absolutely. But if they didn't, they'll be like, no. And then you'll be like, aha. So it always helps to double check. Can never be too safe. And then we got Good Day Joe. Please find attached your 2022 financial activity report. Thanks and regards, Westmount Day School. So this looks fine, especially if I normally contact this person. But the thing is, do not click this, and no hovering will help you with it either. There is no way to check these PDFs. So you just have to hope it's from a reliable person. But since I already saw that this address is not what I normally get it from, there is no chance that I'm going to click this. And if you were expecting it and you're really not sure, contact the network department. We can open it in a secure environment to see if it's really what we think it is. So whenever in doubt, especially if it's something this convoluted, just come to us and we can help you with it. It is our job to help. So we're going to go with phishing. And correct, this is a complicated phish. Absolutely is. PDFs can contain malware and viruses. Always be certain you trust the sender and use your browser or an online service such as Google Drive to open them safely. So show me. So yep, the from address is slightly different from what you see in the past. And if we were on Outlook like we were, you could see previous emails. If you saw none and you were expecting, oh, I email this person all the time and it's not showing that I ever emailed this person, the email address is different in some way. And then be careful when opening PDFs, especially if you don't expect them. Alright, here's another one. Someone has been trying to access your account. Look carefully before changing your password. Alright, so we have a Google thingy thing. Let's see, no reply at google.support. Now, this might seem legitimate, but it'll be from google.com. It might be from like support.google.com, but google.support is not a valid one. Just gonna let you know up front. And once again, this is all information you could Google or you can ask us if you're not sure. But it's accessible information. Let's see, we're going to ignore the date in this one. We're just going to focus on this part right here. Someone has your password. Let's see, hi, someone just used your password to try to sign into your Google account. Information, this time from Romania, Firefox. Google stopped the sign-in attempt. You should change your password immediately. And let's see, if you hover over this, aha. So let's look for that single slash. Alright, one, we have HTTP, so there's no S. That's a little sus, especially since it's come from Google. You would expect it to be secure. Then you got myaccount.google.com, which if it stopped there and had the slash, that'd probably be valid. However, then it goes -security setting page.ml-security.org/. So our domain, the actual place where we're being redirected if we click this, is ml-security.org, because that's where that first slash is. So definitely not where you want to go. Another tricky one where you gotta find that /, that first one, and that'll be where you go. As for this, hi seems a little bit impersonal. Like, I would expect if Google actually had my information, they might say, hi Joe, someone has tried to use, or hi, account name, username right here. You know, just saying hi kind of doesn't fit, and then google.support doesn't fit. So I'm going to say phishing. Incorrect. This email used a lookalike URL. This is almost identical to an attack used to successfully hack politicians' emails. Always be sure to check URLs carefully. Show me. So google.support isn't used. And then the link points to ml-security.org, not Google. Alright, your account seems to be under attack again. Or is it? Dun dun dun. Alright, so we got Google, and it's google.support. So I already know it's not legit, but let's just keep looking through this. So if it was actually at this time, I'd be a little sus. But I mean, that could be the time they're attacking, so that doesn't mean anything necessarily. And let's read this. Government-backed attackers may be trying to steal your password. There's a chance that this is a false alarm, but we believe we detect government-backed hackers trying to steal your password. This happens to less than 0.1% of all Gmail users. We can't reveal what tipped us off because the attackers will take note and change their tactics, but if they are successful at some point, they could access your data or take other actions using your account. To further improve your security, based on current settings, we recommend change password. Let's hover over it. This one is tricky. Very, very, very tricky. Because we got the google.com and we got that slash. So that looks legitimate. This one is evil because it uses a redirection variable inside. Now this I don't expect you to remember because this is very advanced and this doesn't come up very often, but it does come up sometimes. So if you look and you see google.com/amp, that's fine, the tinyurl.com, that's not normal. You don't normally see a whole nother URL injected inside that part after the slashes. So if you ever come across something like that, that's kind of a red flag. And in that case, I would want you to contact one of us. That's my big thing here, is if you see something that looks complicated, you don't, like if it's telling you, look, your password got stolen, you need to take action, I would get you to contact us before taking any action, just to make sure it's a legitimate thing. Because in most cases, we're the ones in charge of your account anyway. You shouldn't be getting anything like this. And if you are, we want to make sure it's the real deal. So very, very tricky, but I don't buy it because it has the tinyurl.com injected inside of it. And then we have the Google.support. So I'm already like not sold. But this one's very sophisticated because otherwise, if I didn't know that, this would seem like the real deal. But I'm going to go with phishing. And we are correct. This is based on a real warning, but links to a fake login page. Let's see. An hacker tried to use Google to hide the actual link, which is from tinyurl. Any most similar to this was used to target think tanks and politicians. So, yep, Google support is an unused address. And this is tricky, but the link is actually a redirect to something on tinyurl.com. Alright, and last one. This one is tricky. And it's probably not something you've seen very often, or maybe it is. I hadn't seen this very often myself. But you signed up for a travel planning service. You want them to scan your email, but take a close look. So it's like, hi Joe, TripIt wants to view your email messages and settings. Allow them to do this. And like, you can hover over this, the terms and services. It's from TripIt.com. And there's that single slash. So we do know it's from TripIt.com. But let's see if there's any other redirects hidden inside. So we got UHP/user agreement. So no.com or anything's inside there. So that looks good. Privacy policies, same deal. TripIt.com /UHP /privacy. Okay, that one looks good. My accounts. And this one is a security.google.com /. That one's good because we got google.com's the actual domain there. And then we don't have any other like URLs hiding in there, like settings /security /permissions. That looks good. Let's see. And then for this one, TripIt. So in the case of an application, you see how we can't hover over it? This you can actually click. And it's only when it's in that format where it's an allow thing. But you can actually click it. And if you do, it tells you email support@tripit.com. That looks good. And this is developer info, and clicking allow will redirect you to this. So it actually will tell you where it'll take you. And that looks legit. So I would say that this is real. And see, notice the allow and cancel, you can't hover over it and see. But that's because this is an application thing. So you would have to click here to know. Which isn't something I'd expect anyone to know off the top of their head, but that's what we're covering. It's just to make y'all aware. And then another instance, like if it's an application that you are expecting, then that's fine. But if it's something like, Hulu wants to do this, but you don't have Hulu, don't click it. Absolutely not. Cancel that. I wouldn't even click cancel. I just straight would delete the email. But with what I got going on, I click this, I get the developer info, and it says support@tripit.com, and it says it'll redirect me to tripit.com. It's claiming to be from TripIt. If I hover over this, it seems legitimate because we got the tripit.com /, so we know the actual URL is directing us to tripit.com. So I'm going to go with legitimate. And we are correct. This is legitimate. It's important to be cautious with these kinds of account access requests, though, and to be sure you trust the developer. Check the domain that is displayed and be sure to click on it for more details. Show me. And so this shows you the requesting app's name, but you should click it to make sure the additional details seem correct. And this shows what the requesting service can do. Make sure to read it carefully before allowing access. And so, did a great job. We got 8 out of 8 correct. And practice makes perfect. And the more you understand what to look for to safer you will be in phishing attacks. And I agree with this. And then you can retake this quiz as many times as you want. And you can rewatch this video as many times as you want. I can go into a lot more detail on some of these things if you wish. I'm always down to educate some more. So just let us know what your feedback is on this. And good luck on the quiz. So how we're going to set up the quiz. So take quiz again. And this is what you'll see when you click on the link I'm going to include. You'll enter whatever name you want. You could be like Alice at example.com. It doesn't matter what your name is. You just click get started, and then we're right back here. And then you have all the tools at your disposal. You can watch the video while going through it. That is totally fine. What's important to me is that you have an understanding of what to look for, and you understand that if anything feels beyond your reach, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. All right. Take it easy, y'all.